On the tarmac at Edwards Air Force Base, a woman in plain coveralls drags heavy fuel lines toward an experimental fighter jet. No one spares her a second glance. She works methodically, invisibly. When Captain Reinhardt strides past, he knocks over her toolbox without stopping. She continues working, face hidden beneath her cap. But when the alarms sound and the jet malfunctions, all eyes turn to her. And in that moment, everything they thought they knew changes forever. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoy stories about the unsung heroes among us, consider subscribing for more untold stories that remind us to look closer at the people we pass by every day. Dawn breaks over Edwards Air Force Base, painting the desert landscape in shades of amber and gold. The massive tarmac awakens as ground crew prepare for the day's test flights of the X-97 Wraith stealth fighter, the Air Force's most advanced aircraft and closely guarded secret. Among the bustling crew moves Airman First Class Avriel Avi Lindqvist, her face partially hidden beneath her standard-issue cap. Unlike the others who joke and chat, she works in methodical silence, checking fuel lines with movements that possess an unusual precision. There's nothing remarkable about her presence, just another support personnel in a sea of uniforms, invisible to those who matter. The morning desert air carries a chill that will burn off by midday, but for now, it keeps the ground crew alert. Avriel adjusts her worn jacket, pulling it tighter around her slim frame. Her uniform bears the signs of countless hours spent beneath aircraft, stained with hydraulic fluid and jet fuel, the patches faded from too many washes. Like her, it's functional, unremarkable, designed to blend in. Colonel Thaddeus Blackwood strides across the tarmac with Captain Soren Reinhardt, their conversation focused on the day's high-stakes demonstration. Blackwood, with his steel-gray hair and ramrod posture, represents old military tradition, while Reinhardt embodies the cocky confidence of the new generation of pilots. "The brass from Pentagon will be here at 1400, Blackwood says, tension evident in his voice. "Make sure the Wraith performs perfectly. The entire program's funding depends on it." "Don't worry, sir," Reinhardt responds with a cocky grin that's become his trademark among the flight crews. "That bird was born to dance, and I'm the only one who knows all her moves." As they pass Avriel, Reinhardt accidentally knocks over her toolbox with his boot. Tools scatter across the tarmac, the clatter drawing annoyed glances from nearby personnel. "Watch it, grease monkey," he says without stopping or helping. Avriel silently collects her tools, her eyes momentarily tracking the X-97 with unusual intensity, not the casual interest of support staff, but the critical assessment of someone intimately familiar with advanced aircraft. A nearby mechanic, Taryn Okoye, helps her gather the scattered tools. "Don't mind him," Taryn says, handing her a wrench. "Reinhardt treats everyone below flight status like we're invisible." Avriel nods but says nothing, returning to her work. The camera lingers on her hands, calloused, scarred, but moving with the precision of someone who knows aircraft intimately. "Been here what, 8 months now?" Taryn asks, trying to make conversation. "Don't think I've heard you say more than 10 words the whole time." 14 months, Avriel corrects quietly, her voice surprisingly authoritative despite its softness. "Some people talk. I prefer to work." Taryn grins. "Fair enough. Just thought you might want a friend. Base this size gets lonely." Avriel's expression softens momentarily. "Thanks for the help, Okoye." She turns back to the fuel lines, effectively ending the conversation. As Taryn walks away, Avriel's gaze drifts to the X-97 again. Something in her eyes changes, a flash of something like longing quickly suppressed. The morning progresses with the practiced rhythm of military precision. Pilots arrive for briefings, technicians run diagnostics, and security personnel patrol the perimeter. Avriel moves between tasks with quiet efficiency, always watching, always listening. When she passes near groups in conversation, they rarely notice her presence, continuing their discussions as if she were merely part of the background. During her lunch break, while others gather in the mess hall, Avriel sits alone outside facing the runway. She eats methodically while reviewing technical specifications on a tablet. To anyone passing by, she appears to be reading recreational content, but a closer look would reveal complex schematics for the X-97's neural interface system, information far beyond her clearance level. That's some heavy reading for a lunch break, comes a voice from behind her. Avriel quickly switches screens before turning to face Lieutenant Zephyr Kincaid, a junior intelligence officer known for his attention to detail. His lanky frame casts a shadow over her as he stands uncertainly, holding his own lunch tray. Just brushing up on basic maintenance protocols, Avriel replies evenly. Something I can help you with, Lieutenant? Mind if I join you? He asks, already setting his tray down. Mess halls packed with pilots bragging about their exploits. Gets old fast. Avriel nods once, returning to her tablet. Kincaid seems content with the silence for a few minutes before speaking again. You know, I've been reviewing security footage as part of routine protocols. You show up a lot, Lindqvist. Always in the background, always working. Almost like you're everywhere at once. Avriel doesn't look up. Just doing my job, sir. That's just it, Kincaid continues, studying her face. You do everyone's job. Fuel lines, avionics, even computer systems. Most specialists stick to their area. I like to be useful, she says, finishing her lunch and standing. If you'll excuse me, Lieutenant. Break's over. Kincaid watches her walk away, a slight frown on his face. He pulls out his own tablet and makes a quick note before returning to his meal. By early afternoon, the base hums with anticipation for the Pentagon demonstration. The operations center buzzes with activity as final preparations for the demonstration are underway. On monitors, the X-97 is being prepped for takeoff. Brigadier General Elora Vallon has arrived from the Pentagon, her presence adding to the day's tension. General Vallon stands out among the military brass, her gray-streaked dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, her uniform adorned with medals that speak to a lifetime of service. She listens attentively as Colonel Blackwood explains the planned demonstration, but her sharp eyes miss nothing, continuously scanning the room and the personnel. The neural interface is the real breakthrough, Blackwood explains. Allows the pilot to control the aircraft partly through thought, reducing reaction time by milliseconds. Those milliseconds make all the difference in combat situations. Impressive if it works, Valen responds, her tone measured. The last 3 neural interface projects failed spectacularly. What makes this one different? Before Blackwood can answer, warning lights flash across multiple screens. The primary test pilot radios in that several critical systems are showing errors. Captain Reinhardt stands with Colonel Blackwood and General Vallon, looking concerned as technicians scramble to identify the problem. This can't be happening today, Blackwood mutters. The funding for the entire program depends on this demonstration. Could be sabotage, Reinhardt suggests, scanning the room suspiciously. We've had intelligence about foreign interest in the program. On one of the security monitors, Avriel can be seen on the tarmac, approaching the X-97. While other ground crews stand back due to the warning lights, she moves purposefully toward the aircraft. What is she doing? Blackwood demands. Why isn't she following emergency protocols? Lieutenant Kincaid, stationed at a nearby console, zooms in on the feed. Sir, that maintenance tech, she's doing something unusual to the aircraft. On the screen, Avriel works steadily, appearing to simply perform routine maintenance, but a close-up reveals she's making subtle adjustments to the aircraft's systems, modifications no ordinary ground crew member should know how to make. Blackwood's face darkens. He barks into his radio. Security to the tarmac. Detain that ground crew member immediately. On the tarmac, Avriel is aware of the approaching security team but continues working with calm precision. She accesses a panel near the cockpit that contains the neural interface hardware, making minute adjustments that would be indecipherable to most technicians. As security approaches, other ground crew step back with hands raised, but Avriel continues working until the last possible moment. When they reach her, she stands slowly, removing her cap. For the first time, we see her face clearly, calm, unflinching, with eyes that hold the weight of experiences far beyond her apparent rank. Step away from the aircraft, the security officer orders, his hand resting on his sidearm. The calibration is complete, Avriel responds calmly. The neural interface will function properly now. What exactly do you think you're doing? Demands the security officer, signaling for his team to surround her. Fixing your plane, she replies simply. Your diagnostic protocol missed a calibration issue in the neural flight system. It would have failed catastrophically during the demonstration. By now, Colonel Blackwood, Captain Reinhardt, and General Vallon have arrived at the scene, followed by Lieutenant Kincaid. The gathering has drawn attention from across the base, creating an audience for the confrontation. And what would a fuel jockey know about the most advanced neural flight system in the world? Reinhardt scoffs, stepping forward with barely contained anger. General Vallon says nothing, but her eyes narrow as she studies Avriel with growing interest. Something about the woman's demeanor has caught her attention, a sense of recognition flickering across her features. I know enough, Avriel responds to Reinhardt, her voice taking on a subtle note of authority that seems to surprise everyone present. Run a level 3 diagnostic if you don't believe me. You'll find the synchronization has improved by 14%. Reinhardt looks to Blackwood, who nods tersely to a nearby technician. The tech runs the suggested diagnostic on a portable terminal, his eyes widening as the results appear. She's right, sir, he says incredulously. The interface is functioning better than it ever has before. All errors are gone. That's impossible, Reinhardt mutters. Nobody understands that system except the original design team, and they're all at Lockheed Martin headquarters. General Vallon steps forward, her gaze never leaving Avriel's face. Not all of them, Captain, she says quietly. Check her credentials, thoroughly. Lieutenant Kincaid is already ahead of the order, having pulled up Avriel's file on his tablet. Sir, her ID checks out as Airman Lindqvist, but he hesitates, confusion evident in his expression. I ran a facial recognition. It came back classified. Classified? Blackwood looks bewildered. What the hell does that mean? A sudden gust of desert wind blows across the tarmac, catching Avriel's jacket and momentarily lifting it open. The movement reveals a glimpse of something on the inner lining, a patch partially visible, black with a silver edge and an insignia impossible to make out fully. The patch seems to capture General Vallon's full attention. Everyone back to your stations, Vallon orders suddenly, her voice cutting through the tension. Colonel, Captain, Lieutenant, you stay. And you, she addresses Avriel directly, you come with us. Bring her to your office, Colonel, immediately. As security escorts Avriel toward the administrative building, the gathered personnel reluctantly disperse, murmuring among themselves. The mysterious ground crew member has suddenly become the center of attention after months of invisibility. Inside Blackwood's office, tension fills the air as Avriel stands calmly before the colonel's desk. General Vallon closes the door behind them, ensuring privacy. Show me the patch, Vallon commands quietly. Avriel hesitates, her eyes meeting Vallon's in a silent exchange that suggests a shared history. Finally, she slowly turns, removing her jacket to reveal the full insignia on her shirt beneath, a black triangle with a silver border and 13 stars arranged in a pattern matching no known military constellation. General Vallon immediately stands at attention and salutes. Everyone looks confused except for Vallon, whose expression has transformed from suspicion to profound respect. Would someone tell me what the hell is going on? Blackwood demands, looking between Vallon and Avriel. Colonel, Vallon says formally, you're in the presence of Lieutenant Commander Avriel Lindqvist, Congressional Medal of Honor recipient and former commander of Ghost Squadron. She's the test pilot who flew the original X-97 prototype and wrote half the code for its neural interface. The office falls into stunned silence. Reinhardt stares at Avriel as if seeing her for the first time, his earlier contempt replaced by disbelief. Kincaid takes an involuntary step back, suddenly understanding why his security checks had hit classified walls. That's impossible, Reinhardt finally manages. Ghost Squadron is a myth, a story pilots tell rookies to keep them in line. Not a myth, Captain, Vallon corrects, her voice carrying the weight of authority that comes with her rank. Classified. After her last mission over the South China Sea 3 years ago, Commander Lindqvist was officially listed as killed in action. Blackwood sinks into his chair, struggling to reconcile the quiet maintenance worker with the legendary pilot now standing before him. You've been dead for 3 years. There was a memorial service at Arlington. The memorial service was necessary, Avriel says, speaking with the clear, confident voice of a commanding officer rather than the subdued tones of Airman Lindqvist. It allowed me to operate without scrutiny. But why? Kincaid asks, his analytical mind already piecing together the implications. Why would one of our most decorated pilots fake her death and work as a refueler? Avriel looks to General Vallon, who nods almost imperceptibly, giving permission to reveal classified information. I was deployed here under deep cover to monitor the X-97 program after intelligence suggested foreign infiltration, Avriel explains. Someone has been leaking technical specifications to a foreign power. The neural interface technology represents a quantum leap in fighter capabilities. If it were compromised, we would lose our tactical advantage overnight. Blackwood leans forward, his earlier anger transformed into focused intensity. You're telling me we have a spy on this base? One of my people? Yes, Colonel, Avriel confirms. But identifying them has proven difficult. They're careful, professional. I needed to become invisible to catch someone who excels at hiding in plain sight. You've been working as a refueler for 8 months, Blackwood says, still trying to process the revelation. 14 months, sir, Avriel corrects. And in that time, I've identified 3 security breaches and corrected 27 critical design flaws that no one else noticed, including the one I was fixing today, which would have caused a catastrophic failure during the demonstration flight. Reinhardt shakes his head in disbelief. Wait, you're saying if you hadn't intervened, the X-97 would have crashed during today's demonstration? Not just crashed, Captain. The neural feedback loop would have sent conflicting signals to the flight control systems. At supersonic speeds, the structural integrity would have failed. The aircraft would have disintegrated in midair, potentially with casualties on the ground. The implications hang heavy in the air. A failed demonstration would have been embarrassing, but a catastrophic accident would have ended the program entirely. And you think this was deliberate sabotage? Kincaid asks, already pulling up security protocols on his tablet. I know it was, Avriel confirms. The calibration error was too precise, too perfectly targeted at the neural interface's vulnerability. Someone with intimate knowledge of the system made that adjustment within the last 12 hours. Blackwood turns to Vallon. General, with all due respect, if we have a spy targeting our most advanced aircraft, we need to lock down this base immediately. The Pentagon delegation should be postponed until we can ensure security. I'm afraid that's not an option, Colonel, Vallon responds. The delegation is already en route, including 3 congressional representatives from the Appropriations Committee. This demonstration has been planned for months, and the funding decisions will be made next week. So we proceed as if nothing's happened, Reinhardt says, his usual confidence subdued, with a saboteur still active on base. Not exactly, Avriel interjects. We proceed, but with modifications. The neural interface has been recalibrated, but it's now tuned to my specific brainwave patterns. It was the only way to ensure it couldn't be compromised again before the demonstration. Reinhardt's eyes widen as he understands the implication. But that means I can't fly it. The system would reject my neural patterns. Precisely, Avriel confirms. Which leaves us with a choice. Either we explain to the Pentagon delegation why the demonstration needs to be postponed, potentially losing funding for the entire program, or we find a pilot whose brainwave patterns are compatible with the current calibration. All eyes turn to Avriel. The room falls silent as the weight of the decision settles upon them. You, Blackwood finally says, you're saying you need to fly the demonstration. I'm saying it's an option, Colonel, one that comes with significant risks. My cover would be blown completely. The operation to identify the spy would be compromised. General Vallon steps forward. Commander Lindqvist's mission parameters included maintaining cover at all costs. Having her fly the X-97 publicly would effectively end that mission. We need to consider this carefully. With respect, General, Kincaid interjects, if the saboteur knows their attempt failed, won't they already be suspicious of Airman Lindqvist? Her cover might already be compromised. Avriel nods. Lieutenant Kincaid has a point. The fact that I detected and corrected the sabotage would raise questions regardless. The saboteur will be watching closely to see what happens next. Blackwood stands, his decision made. We proceed with the demonstration as scheduled. Commander Lindqvist will fly the X-97. Lieutenant Kincaid, you'll coordinate with security to discreetly monitor all personnel with access to the aircraft. If the saboteur makes a move, I want them caught. And after the demonstration? Reinhardt asks, looking at Avriel with newfound respect. What happens to Commander Lindqvist then? General Vallon answers before Avriel can speak. That will depend on several factors, Captain. For now, let's focus on making this demonstration a success. As they prepare to leave the office, Reinhardt approaches Avriel. Commander, I owe you an apology. The way I treated you, not knowing who you were, I had no right to. You treated me exactly as you were supposed to, Captain, Avriel responds, her voice neutral. My cover depended on being invisible, unremarkable. If you had treated me differently, it would have drawn attention. Still, knocking over your toolbox, Reinhardt begins, genuine remorse in his voice. Was perfect, Avriel finishes for him. It reinforced my position at the bottom of the base hierarchy. No one looks twice at the person they can dismiss. With that sobering thought, they exit the office to prepare for the demonstration. Blackwood arranges for Avriel to be discreetly escorted to the pilot's ready room, while Kincaid begins implementing enhanced security protocols around the X-97. In the ready room, Avriel stands alone, the familiar surroundings bringing back memories of her former life. She runs her hand along the row of flight suits, finding one that might fit her slender frame. For a moment, she allows herself to feel the anticipation of returning to the cockpit, the one place where she has always felt most alive. The door opens, and Captain Reinhardt enters, carrying a fresh flight suit with the proper insignia. General Vallon sent this over, he explains, offering it to her. Said you might want to wear your own rank for the demonstration. Avriel takes the flight suit, noticing that it bears not only her correct rank, but also the distinctive Ghost Squadron patch on the shoulder, the same emblem that had been hidden inside her maintenance uniform. Thank you, Captain, she says, genuinely appreciative. Can I ask you something, Commander? Reinhardt inquires, hesitating by the door. Ghost Squadron, the stories we hear, are they true? The nighttime extraction in Tehran? The supersonic run through the Taiwan Strait with no radar signature? A ghost of a smile crosses Avriel's face. Some stories get exaggerated in the telling, Captain. Others don't go far enough. Reinhardt nods, accepting that this is all the confirmation he's likely to get. For what it's worth, it's an honor to meet you, Commander. Your tactics are still taught at the Academy, even if they never mention your name. As Reinhardt leaves, Avriel changes into the flight suit, the familiar weight of it settling on her shoulders like a second skin. She stands before the mirror, seeing herself as a pilot again after so long in disguise. The transformation is striking, not just in the uniform, but in her bearing, her presence. Commander Lindqvist looks back at her, the anonymous refueler nowhere to be seen. Outside, the base prepares for the Pentagon delegation's arrival. Security has been discreetly enhanced, with Lieutenant Kincaid personally overseeing the measures. The X-97 sits on the tarmac, gleaming in the afternoon sun, its sleek lines disguising the lethal capabilities it possesses. In the operations center, Colonel Blackwood briefs the arriving officials, carefully omitting any mention of the sabotage attempt or Avriel's true identity. For now, they are presenting the demonstration as planned, with only a last-minute change in pilot due to technical considerations. As the delegation moves toward the viewing area, General Vallon pulls Blackwood aside. The President has been informed of Commander Lindqvist's status. He's quite surprised to learn of her survival. And what are his orders regarding her future assignment? Blackwood asks. That depends on today's outcome, Vallon replies. If the demonstration succeeds and we identify the saboteur, she may have options. If not, she disappears again. Either way, the decision will be hers. On the tarmac, Avriel approaches the X-97, flight helmet under her arm. The ground crew, who hours earlier had barely acknowledged her presence, now stand at attention, their expressions a mixture of awe and confusion. Among them, Taran Okoye watches with wide eyes as his former colleague transforms before him. Airman Lindqvist? He questions as she passes. Commander Lindqvist, she corrects gently. Thank you for your friendship, Taran. It meant more than you know. Before he can respond, she continues toward the aircraft. Each step takes her further from the identity she has maintained for 14 months and closer to the one she left behind 3 years ago. The weight of the moment is not lost on her, the knowledge that after this flight, nothing will be the same. As she reaches the X-97, she pauses, running her hand along its fuselage with the familiarity of a rider greeting a favorite horse. This aircraft, this technology, represents the culmination of years of development, much of it guided by her own input before her supposed death. Now, she will fly it not in secret test flights, but before an audience that holds the program's future in their hands. Captain Reinhardt approaches as she prepares to climb into the cockpit. Commander, the neural interface is showing optimal calibration. Whatever you did to fix it, It's working perfectly. It should, Avriel responds. I designed it to adapt to pilot brainwave patterns. The saboteur tried to disrupt that adaptability, but the system is more resilient than they anticipated. Reinhardt nods, then hesitates before speaking again. Commander, I owe you an apology. Save it, Captain, she interrupts. Everyone's invisible to someone. Just make sure you see people clearly from now on. With those words, she climbs into the cockpit, settling into the seat with practiced ease. The canopy lowers, sealing her into the aircraft's advanced systems. As she connects to the neural interface, the X-97 comes alive around her, responding to her thoughts almost before her hands touch the controls. The X-97 sits ready on the runway, its sleek black surface absorbing the afternoon sun rather than reflecting it, a technological marvel designed to be invisible to both radar and the naked eye. In the cockpit, Avriel completes her pre-flight checks with the efficiency of someone who has performed them thousands of times. The neural interface hums at the base of her skull, creating the unique sensation of the aircraft becoming an extension of her own body. Through the communication system, she hears Colonel Blackwood addressing the Pentagon delegation. Ladies and gentlemen, what you are about to witness represents the future of aerial combat. The X-97 Wraith incorporates neural interface technology that allows the pilot to control crucial systems through thought alone, reducing reaction time by precious milliseconds. From her position on the runway, Avriel can see the officials gathered at the viewing platform, their faces expectant. Among them stands General Vallon, her posture rigid, but her eyes fixed on the aircraft with an intensity that suggests personal investment in its success. Commander Lindqvist, you are cleared for takeoff, comes the voice of the tower controller. Demonstration Protocol Alpha is authorized. Copy that, Tower, Avriel responds, her voice steady. X-97 commencing demonstration. The engines power up with a subdued whine, far quieter than conventional fighters. As she guides the aircraft down the runway, Avriel feels the familiar surge of acceleration pushing her back into the seat. The X-97 reaches takeoff speed in half the distance of standard fighters, lifting smoothly into the clear desert sky. Once airborne, she allows herself a moment to truly feel the aircraft, to reconnect with the sensation of flight that has defined her life. The neural interface responds to her thoughts, adjusting control surfaces microseconds before her hands move the physical controls. It's a dance between human and machine, each anticipating the other. Beginning demonstration sequence, she announces, banking the aircraft toward the designated airspace. What follows is a display of aerial prowess that leaves the observers speechless. The X-97 performs maneuvers that would be impossible for conventional aircraft. Turns so tight they should tear the wings off. Accelerations that would cause most pilots to black out. Through it all, Avriel remains in perfect control, the neural interface allowing her to push the boundaries of what seems physically possible. She executes a vertical climb that transitions seamlessly into an inverted flat spin, a maneuver she herself designed but had never performed publicly. The aircraft responds perfectly, its systems anticipating her intentions through the neural link. For these moments, she is not flying the X-97, she is the X-97, their boundaries blurred by technology and skill. On the ground, the Pentagon delegation watches in amazement. Technical experts study data streams showing the neural interface functioning at unprecedented efficiency levels. Military officials murmur among themselves, already envisioning the tactical advantages such capabilities would provide. In the operations center, Lieutenant Kincaid monitors security feeds, watching for any unusual activity that might indicate the saboteur's presence. His attention is drawn to a technician moving purposefully toward one of the auxiliary communications arrays, a location that offers a direct line to the X-97's systems. Colonel, Kincaid says quietly, pointing to the monitor. That's Specialist Reeves. He doesn't have authorization for that area. Blackwood narrows his eyes. Keep watching. Alert security, but tell them to hold position until we're certain. On screen, Specialist Reeves accesses a terminal, his movements quick and practiced. He inserts a device into the system, his expression focused and determined. That's him, Blackwood decides. Move in, but quietly. We don't want to alert the delegation. Security personnel converge on the communications array from multiple directions. their approach deliberately casual until the last moment. When they're within meters of Reeves, he suddenly looks up, awareness dawning on his face. He reaches for something in his pocket, but security is on him before he can complete the motion. As Reeves is subdued, Kincaid examines the device he had connected to the terminal. "It's a remote override for the neural interface," he reports. "He was trying to seize control of the X-97 mid-flight." Blackwood's face darkens. "Get a secure channel to Commander Lindqvist. Tell her the threat has been neutralized." In the sky, Avriel receives the message with calm acknowledgement, showing no outward reaction to the news that someone had attempted to hijack her aircraft. She continues the demonstration without pause, transitioning into the final sequence that will showcase the X-97's combat capabilities. Target drones are released, small unmanned aircraft programmed to evade and counterattack. The X-97's weapon systems come online, linked directly to Avriel's neural patterns. She engages the targets with supernatural precision, the aircraft responding to her intentions almost before she consciously forms them. One by one, the drones are neutralized, some by conventional weapons, others by the X-97's classified electronic warfare suite that Avriel activates with mere thought. The demonstration is not just impressive, it's revolutionary, showcasing capabilities that redefine what's possible in aerial combat. When she finally brings the aircraft back for landing, the runway is lined with personnel who have abandoned their posts to witness history. The X-97 touches down with perfect precision, its landing gear absorbing the impact smoothly. As the engines power down, a spontaneous applause breaks out among the witnesses. Avriel sits for a moment in the cockpit, allowing herself to feel the weight of what has just occurred. For 3 years, she has lived in shadows, her existence erased from official records, her accomplishments unacknowledged. Today, she flew in the full light of day, before an audience that included some of the most powerful figures in the military establishment. As she climbs down from the cockpit, the base personnel form an impromptu honor guard. Colonel Blackwood, General Vallon, and the Pentagon delegation approach, their expressions ranging from awe to satisfaction. "Commander Lindqvist," begins one of the congressional representatives, "that was the most extraordinary display of aviation I've ever witnessed. Consider your program fully funded." Avriel acknowledges the praise with a professional nod, but her attention is drawn to General Vallon, who stands slightly apart from the group. "The saboteur?" Avriel asks quietly when she reaches Vallon. "In custody," Vallon confirms. "Specialist Reeves. He was transmitting data to a foreign intelligence service. Lieutenant Kincaid caught him attempting to override your neural interface during the flight. That explains the slight resistance I felt during the third maneuver," Avriel notes. "The system was fighting external input." "You felt that and still completed the demonstration?" Vallon asks, impressed despite her familiarity with Avriel's capabilities. "The interface is designed to prioritize the pilot's neural patterns. External interference registers as background noise unless it reaches critical levels." Their conversation is interrupted by Captain Reinhardt, who approaches with uncharacteristic humility. "Commander Lindqvist, that was." He searches for words adequate to the moment. "Beyond anything I've ever seen. The vertical transition to inverted spin, I didn't think that was physically possible." "It wasn't, until today," Avriel responds. "The neural interface allows for adjustments that would be too subtle and too rapid for conventional controls." Reinhardt nods, processing this information. "I've been practicing that maneuver in the simulator for months, never even came close to executing it successfully." "Perhaps you were thinking too much like a pilot, Captain," Avriel suggests. "The interface requires you to think like the aircraft itself." As the crowd disperses and the Pentagon delegation moves toward their waiting transport, Colonel Blackwood approaches Avriel and Vallon. "Commander, we've prepared quarters for you in the officers' section," he says. "Your personal effects from your previous accommodation have been transferred." "Thank you, Colonel, but that won't be necessary," Avriel responds. "I'll be departing with General Vallon this evening." Blackwood looks between them, understanding dawning on his face. This was never just about the saboteur, was it? The saboteur was one objective, Vallon confirms. But Commander Lindqvist's mission had multiple parameters. Today's demonstration was the final phase, proving the viability of the neural interface in a semi-public setting. "And now?" Blackwood asks. "Now Commander Lindqvist receives her new assignment," Vallon says, "the details of which remain classified, of course." Blackwood accepts this with a military man's understanding of need-to-know protocols. He extends his hand to Avriel. It's been an honor having you on my base, Commander, even if I didn't know it until today. Avriel accepts the handshake. The honor was mine, Colonel. You run a tight operation here, apart from the foreign spy, of course. A hint of a smile crosses Blackwood's face at her dry humor. Safe travels, Commander. I hope our paths cross again under less clandestine circumstances. As Blackwood walks away, Valen turns to Avriel. The President wants to award you the Distinguished Service Cross, publicly this time. No more shadows, Avriel. Your country wants to recognize you properly. Avriel watches the X-97 being towed to its hangar, its sleek form disappearing into the massive structure. My work isn't done yet, General. There are more threats out there, and I serve better in the shadows. What will you do? Valen asks, though her tone suggests she already knows the answer. Avriel looks toward the horizon, where the sun is setting in a blaze of color that matches the fire of the X-97's engines. There are other bases, other programs that need protection. As long as I'm invisible, I can see what others miss. General Valen studies her for a moment, then nods in understanding. The choice is yours, Commander. It always has been. Later that evening, after the Pentagon delegation has departed and the base has returned to its normal rhythm, Avriel stands in the locker room, changing out of her flight suit. She carefully folds it, running her fingers over the Ghost Squadron insignia one last time before placing it in a secure case that Valen has provided. From another case, she removes a set of standard-issue maintenance coveralls, the name Carmichael stitched above the pocket. She puts them on, the transformation immediate and striking. Her posture changes, becoming less commanding, more subdued. She pulls a cap low over her eyes, completing the disguise. As she exits the building, no one gives her a second glance. Just another maintenance worker ending her shift, invisible in plain sight. At the main gate, she shows identification that will pass any standard inspection. The guard barely looks at it, waving her through with casual disinterest. Outside the base, a nondescript sedan waits. She slides into the passenger seat beside General Valen, who drives them away from Edwards without a word. New identity is in the glove compartment, Valen finally says when they're miles from the base. Naval Air Station Patuxent River. They're developing a new carrier-based drone system with neural interface applications. Intelligence suggests foreign interest. How many know I'm alive? Avriel asks, examining the new documentation. 5, including the President, Valen responds. After today, a few more suspect, but without confirmation. The official record still shows Lieutenant Commander Avriel Lindqvist as killed in action 3 years ago. And Specialist Reeves? Being interrogated as we speak. Preliminary findings suggest he was working alone on this base, but his foreign contacts remain active. Avriel nods, absorbing this information. When do I start at Patuxent River? Monday. You'll be Petty Officer 2nd Class Diana Carmichael, recently transferred from San Diego. Background documentation is solid, but keep interactions minimal as usual. They drive in silence for several miles, the desert landscape passing in darkness broken only by their headlights. Finally, Valen speaks again, her tone more personal than professional. You could come back officially, you know. After today's demonstration, any squadron in the country would fight to have you. You've more than earned your place in the light. Avriel watches the stars emerging in the night sky, countless points of light against infinite darkness. We don't always get to choose where we're needed most, General. Some battles are fought in daylight with flags and uniforms and recognition. Others happen in shadows, unacknowledged but no less critical. And you prefer the shadows? Valen asks, though it's barely a question. I prefer to be where I can make the greatest difference, Avriel responds. Right now, that's where no one thinks to look. A week later, at Naval Air Station Patuxent River, a new maintenance technician signs in for her first day. Her paperwork is perfect, her background check immaculate. No one notices anything special about her as she quietly begins checking fuel lines on an experimental drone. In the distance, something flies too fast to be seen by the naked eye, just a brief glint of metal against the sun. The new technician glances up, a slight smile touching her lips. Some things are meant to remain invisible, watched over by those who choose to disappear so others can shine. As the day progresses, she moves through the base with practiced anonymity, already learning its rhythms, identifying its vulnerabilities, becoming part of its background. Her trained eyes miss nothing, from the security patrol patterns to the subtle hierarchy among the officers. During her lunch break, she sits alone, observing a group of pilots discussing the latest rumors from Edwards Air Force Base, tales of a ghost pilot who emerged from obscurity to fly an impossible mission before vanishing again. They say she was dead for 3 years, one young ensign recounts excitedly, then showed up out of nowhere, flew the unflightable, and disappeared again. Military myths, an older pilot dismisses, exaggerated with every telling. Diana Carmichael eats her sandwich quietly, invisible to their conversation, a ghost hiding in plain sight, exactly where she chooses to be.